Hi, this is Gary Bowles, based in San Francisco. I'm really excited about bringing big ideas to people inside organizations, and I'm really honored to show you these videos by John Hagel and John Seely Brown. Enjoy.
But this doesn't suggest that we may finally now be able to kind of turn, make a new turn in terms of how do we think about collaboration. In fact, I was pausing it for a moment because we want to call this thing the collaboration curve. We want to turn that curve.
There we go. Yeah.
To an exponential curve, and maybe you could talk about that.
Yeah, I think that's the third level of pull that actually becomes most powerful and interesting is how do you take those first two levels of pull, access and attract, and integrate them into these broader environments that allow you to learn faster as more people join. And that's really the notion of using pull in the form of pulling out of each of us our full potential. It's how do we more effectively achieve our full potential by working together in these creation spaces. And what we've done is go out and look at different environments that are emerging, everything from the extreme sports arena to online gaming to software development environments, where you're starting to see these collaboration curves emerge, which basically turn the experience curve that we all know from previous business practices from a diminishing returns curve into an increasing returns curve. And it requires a very different set of pull practices and institutions to really make that come alive. And we're still at the earliest stages of that third level of pull. But again, we can see early instances of that being deployed today.
Many people find it ironic that some of our original ideas on the power of this third level actually came from a fairly in-depth study of the World of Warcraft in terms of how those creation spaces led to true exponential increase in behavior in that space. You want to kind of talk about how
Sure.
that worked?
No, I think there's an incredible amount of learning to be pulled out of World of Warcraft and these online video games. I think one of the key themes in this notion of creation spaces is how do you effectively integrate both the team environment, where you can build deep trust-based relationships with a small group of people that share your practices and engage in joint construction, create an environment where those kinds of teams can form and organize and work together, as well as a broader environment, or a knowledge market, if you will, where these teams, participants in these teams, can start to reach out and connect to a broader set of participants and start to learn from each other at that level as well. And it's really the integration of these two, bringing these two together. We are all experienced, we know about teams in our business world. We have some sense of what these broader knowledge markets look like, but when you combine the two, that's the power. And in World of Warcraft, it's the notion that you, over time, have very tight guilds that emerge where people engage around common challenges, but then a huge array, a very diverse array of discussion forums, of video sharing platforms, all kinds of ways to start to communicate experiences and learning with each other and tap into each other's experience.
In fact, I think as you look at kind of how these high-end raids are going these days inside the guild, that you begin to find new substructures inside the guild, where there are all kinds of pockets of folks inside a particular guild that take it as their responsibility to stay on top of that blog, that forum,
Right.
be looking at the latest, videos and so on, the latest tools that are becoming available. So you now begin to build an infrastructure around your high-end raid groups
Right.
that the guild kind of understands each other, understands kind of what is really needed and so on. And so they become effective people at pulling new information in, filtering it for you, and passing it into the core high-end raid folks.
No, and I think so that's an incredibly important and valuable set of environments to create. I think the other piece that is a learning from World of Warcraft and these other kinds of games is the notion of really being very thoughtful about reducing barriers to entry. So what's the investment you have to make to enter one of these creation spaces and start to get some positive feedback going in terms of your own learning? And one of the things in World of Warcraft that they do very well is as you come in as a newbie, as a new player, The early challenges are challenges you can address on your own.
On your own, right.
And
Critically.
without a lot of collaboration or cooperation, and you can address them fairly quickly and easily. They're an interesting mix of challenge, but also doable. So you get that rapid feedback that says, "Wow, I actually did that. That's interesting. Now let me take on the next one." And then over time, as the challenges increase in difficulty, it creates the incentive to start to come together and collaborate around these rather than trying to do it all on your own. It says you're going to do a lot better if you
Do it, yeah.
come together in a
So it's
middle.
interesting that in some sense, we don't usually think about game designers understanding how to design pathways in to make it maximally attractive to get hooked.
Right.
And then to come together getting hooked in terms of these powerful guilds and the tools they're in, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and actually they're very subtle and sophisticated in terms of constantly managing that balance between challenge and doability. That on the one hand, if you make it too challenging, it becomes impossible, you get frustrated, you lose interest. On the other hand, if you make it too easy, people get bored and move on. So managing that balance and creating this escalating set of performance challenges, and then creating the incentives for people to come together, that's very powerful.